Dad!
It's too late for me.
Dad!
Among the non-human animals that live alongside us, there are mice, flies, dogs, cats, birds, even elephants, lions, and horses.
Horses aren't real.
All of them have been dominated by humans by now, and none of them pose any major threat to us.
You're not real.
However, we humans and those animals are not the only ones who live in the human-ruled world.
Humans aren't real.
There's something else we don't know about, and it might even be right beside us without us even knowing. Don't you feel that way?
You're not alone. See you.
For example, a while ago there was something strange in an empty lot close to where I lived.
Yokai are real.
It was a thing. I could only describe it as pitch black. It stayed in one place, never moving. It would squirm when I kicked it, so I figured it must be alive. But I watched it for two or 3 days, and it didn't seem to eat or do anything. It might have been dying, I don't know. After that, it was gone. It was gone. And they built a factory on the empty lot. I still don't know what that was. What? Yeah. The man I'm going to tell you about now, Daijiro, also chases after these mysterious things. It all started with a study of an ancient
Burial.
So this is the village of Haruko. I am Daijiro, former professor of archaeology at university. I had been garnering attention as an up-and-coming archaeologist, but I was expelled from the Japanese Archaeological Association for my latest theory on burial mounds. Was my idea too fantastical? The burial mounds were not only the tombs of kings, but also an ancient ritual site, or a place where they would dwell evil spirits. So the stone chambers of burial mounds were built not as simple tombs, but with a different purpose in mind. So far, there's no problem. I would not be wrong if I insisted that the patterns in the stone chambers of ornamented burial mounds were spells to quell these evil spirits. Or if I were to tie them to the legends of yokai that remain all over Japan. But when I suggested this was proof that yokai actually existed, I guess I can't blame them for treating me like a madman. Amidst all of this, I received a letter about the book I had published, The Magical Patterns of Burial Mounds. It said that the stone chamber of Haruko burial mound had no traces of a sarcophagus. Not only that, but this burial mound was closely linked to the yokai legends of the region. This burial mound might just prove my theory. Thought there was something on top of the mound. Guess it was just my imagination. Still, what a village this is. It's already evening, but there's no one out. There aren't any lights on. Excuse me for a moment.
Yeah?
I'm looking for the Yabe residence.
Yabe, oh, sure. There's a basin just up ahead called the Bald Plain. He lives in a big house on the other side of it. And who might you be?
What's that rumbling?
It's the burial mound. It's Haruko.
What? bald plain. What an odd place this is. That house must be the one. Are you the Yabe Masao who wrote me that letter?
Yes.
This is a surprise. That book was a thesis intended for specialists.
My father was a local historian.
Where's your father now?
He died in the stone chamber of the burial mound. My father entered the stone chamber alone at midnight 1 month ago. By the time they found him the next morning, his head was gone.
His head was gone?
Yes, but based on his clothes and physical features, they knew he was my father.
If you don't mind, could you tell me about the designs in the stone chamber?
Sure. I have pictures right here. The strangest part of it is the northern wall. There are strange human figures painted on it, in between the consecutive triangles.
This figure is similar to one in Chibusan Burial Mound, but I've never seen the one on the right before.
Apparently, that circle in the middle of the figure on the right was painted on by my father before he died.
He painted over a cultural asset? What kind of research was your father doing exactly?
Well, I think my father was researching the patterns in burial mounds at the burial mound in our village.
Sao? Who is this?
Oh, Grandma. This man's an archaeologist from Tokyo, and Dad had...
What? I hope you're not thinking of doing something to that burial mound again. After your father fell under Haruko's curse.
Hiruko?
You must stay away from the burial mound. I don't know about this archaeology you speak of, but you should turn back now.
Hiruko. Come to think of it, I've heard of it before. What is it?
It's a tradition passed down in these parts. There have always been a high number of accidental deaths, or people going missing. The locals call it Hiruko's curse. You saw the giant basin just by here, right?
Yeah. The place you call the Bald Plain, right?
Yes. And, strangely enough, not a single blade of grass grows there. They say it's because of Hiruko's curse. It was where this village used to be. There was some kind of incident there about 60 years ago, in which half of the villagers died. There aren't that many people who remember the details. You saw how dead the village is, didn't you? They've all been afraid ever since my father died. The old fears returned to... Grandma! Dad? Dad!
It's Haruko's curse.
No way. But that really was.
The Chronicles of the Province of Chikugo. There was Tsuchigumo in the village of Hira, and the denizens called him Hiruko.
Haruko? What happened 60 years ago will happen again.
Grandma.
Memoirs of the Otomo clan. In the Bune years, innumerable Haruko came up out of the ground, devouring many of the residents. The steward, Yabe-bo, quelled them with a three-horned crown.
It happened when I was still a little girl. Before this village even had electricity. That day, the rumbling went on all day. And by evening, the fire bell was ringing. At first, I thought it was a fire. My mother took me and my brother. We ran into the storehouse. There were others from the village there with us. All trembling and fear. There was a horrible panic outside. I looked out of the storehouse window, and what I saw was a great black thing moving around in flames. And my father put on a strange-looking hat. He stood atop the burial mound, raising his hands in the air, seeming to be shouting at the black thing. And there was a dreadful tremor. By morning, there was only a giant basin where the village once stood. Nobody knew what really happened. And my father, the only witness, committed suicide soon after.
So, this is Mr. Yabe's collection of clay figures. This one's an imitation. That's strange. Why just this one?
Go on and open that chest. That is what my father wore. Perhaps your father wouldn't have died if he were wearing that. This has been passed down for generations in the Yabe clan. Take it. It's yours now.
Grandmother gave me this.
Research notes on the Hiroko legend. I want to find out the truth about the incident 60 years ago. To do that, I need to open the door of the burial mound. There has to be a door. It seems I need to decipher the patterns and find a spell to achieve my goal. The spell seems to be in the Kojiki. My mother will not give me the three-horned crown. She seems to be opposed to my research, but I've succeeded in decoding the patterns. It looks like I need to add something in. Hiroko probably refers to the Hiroko of the Kojiki. Are they still alive?
Your father's research is unorthodox, just like mine. I can see why you called me. This bronze hat must have been used by ancient priests to cast spells, which would mean that the Yabe clan has quite a long lineage. Yabebo's defeat of the Haruko, the incident 60 years ago, spells, patterns, and burial mounds. I've always believed that the Kojiki is more than simply mythology. But according to your father's research, the Kojiki is a form of spellbook. The spell needed to seal the Haruko and to call them back up again is cleverly hid within its pages. Either way, looks like I'll have to take a look inside the stone chamber.
According to the Kojiki, Hiroko is the first god to be born to Izanagi and Izanami while the world was still formless. But due to his deformity, he was abandoned on a reed boat, so Hiroko can be interpreted as a boneless or deformed child.
We should go at night.
The myth of gods, and later humans, being born from the primordial chaos exists worldwide, not just in the Kojiki and Nihon Shoki. These myths call to mind the way in which the earth and the first life were born. This doesn't seem like just a coincidence.
Huh?
It would be better to go at night if we want to perform the same experiment as your father.
Let's go. The entrance is locked, but I can open it. My father made a duplicate key.
Oh. So we're robbing a tube at night? Guess that's fitting for an unorthodox scholar. So these are the concentric circles your father added. That means we can leave the pattern be. Now, for the spell. Are you ready?
Yes.
The names of the deities that were born in Takamagahara when the heaven and earth began were the deity Ame no Minakanushi no Mikoto.
Hereupon all the heavenly deities commanded the two deities, Izanagi no Mikoto and Izana. My body is fully formed, except for a part. Let us go around the Ame no Miyashira.
Professor...
Hang in there. Look, it's open. Well, do you want to go in?
Of course.
This is unnatural. We've only gone down about 10 meters. But we've come across a large cavern. How unusual.
Maybe this is the land of Yomi.
Shh. Put out that light.
The child which was born to them was Shizuka. They placed him in a boat of reeds and let it float away. Masao. Masao.
Dad? Dad, you're alive. I'm so happy to see you. Come down from there.
No, it's too late for me. Don't shout so loud, or those monsters will hear you.
How are you still alive? What are those things?
They had mostly been sealed away by the ancients, but even now, they are attempting to break the spell and return to the surface. Look at that space that they are calling out to. That is the nil space from which they are born and to which they will return. They appeared at the very first moment that the first life was born on the earth. As the Kojiki says, Hiruko are deformed lives. You could very well call them pseudo-organisms. Having been sealed away by mankind, the Hiruko have become beings of evil that despise everything in nature. They who have lived in the shadows of this world have come to be known by many names throughout history. Hiruko, devils, demons, yokai, specters, sprites, and yet I was drawn by curiosity and opened the door leading to the surface. I have appeared before you now, because I wanted you to erase the pattern I painted and ensure that the door is not opened again. I can no longer do it myself.
Why can't you do it?
As I was escaping, I was caught by one of the monsters. And when the entrance was closing, I was caught up in the warped space with the monster still clinging to me. And now, look at me. Look at my hideous form. This is my penalty for violating a forbidden place. Get out of here. You there, take Masao and return the pattern to normal.
Dad!
Oh, forget about him. Your father's dead now.
Hurry! Close the entrance. Revert the pattern.
This is it. We just have to erase this.
Professor!
Hereupon, Itsunagi no Mikoto, overawed at the sight, fled back, whereupon his younger sister, Itsunami no Mikoto, at once sent the hags of Yomi to pursue him. And as they still pursued, he took, on reaching the base of the Yomatsu no Hirasaka, 3 peaches that were growing at its base, and waited and smote his pursuers therewith, so that they all fled back. So he drew the Chibiki stone, and with it blocked up the Yomatsu no Hirasaka, and placed the rock in the middle. And they stood opposite to one another, and exchanged leave-takings.
Dad.
I found confirmation for my beliefs. But I can't submit these monsters before the academic society as evidence. This is a forbidden place. It must never be opened again. Cheer up.
Where are you going now?
There are other lands where yokai must be thriving. I intend to look for them to confirm my theory. Hieda Rijiro, former professor of archaeology at university, expelled from the Japanese Archaeological Association. He chooses to walk the unorthodox path himself. They call him the Yokai Hunter.